Hi there, Editing Thunder here. Just to give you a little heads up about today's episode. We have a new recording setup for the podcast, which is a lot more comfortable than the old huddled together around a microphone thing that we did, which has been great. But the problem is that in post, I've ended up running into several issues with echo as well as with volume problems. This is something that I'm looking to fix over time, but for this episode, I've tried to do as much as I can, and the audio is going to sound a little bit weird, so please do keep that in mind. A second thing as well is that I'm looking to upload episodes of this as well as Return to Sender onto an audio-based platform, so if you want to listen to these, you don't have to have YouTube open constantly and probably save some data if you're listening to this while traveling. So if you have a preferred platform you would like to see these podcasts come out on, please do leave a comment below, and I will be very eager to try and pop these onto something a little bit different from YouTube. In the meantime, enjoy today's episode.
Connor, we are once again breaking the most ancient of seals, crossing a boundary that must never be crossed.
The we?
No, that is one thing that we're doing wrong, but I was thinking more that we're once again recording an episode of the podcast at about 9 o'clock in the evening.
Oh, right, when you're in full sleepy mode.
Yeah, there's going to be another fantastic sleepy cast. Was it Shadow we did like this? Because we had to play the entire game.
No, it was Signalis. Well, I mean, we played all of Shadow and we had some energy, but yeah. Signalis we played in the evening. We had just beaten that game and we played that live. I think we recorded that at about 11 at night.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Geist, I think there was low energy for Geist as well, but to be fair, we played that in like the afternoon. I think Geist was just Geist.
Geist is just a low energy game.
Yeah.
But this episode, the 6th episode of our premiere podcast, I gotta say it every time, is a special occasion. I know I say that every episode, but that's because it's still so new and so fresh, you know? But there's one signifier, one qualifying factor about this game that is unique among the games that we have played thus far, and a factor that will remain unique for many, many episodes to come. I'm not sure if we've ever made this clear thus far, but we are actually European.
Yeah, we definitely don't sometimes border on being masturbatory about it.
Yes, Connor, we are from the venerable, the vaunted lands of Europe, the old country. We have so many benefits: universal healthcare, a rich culture, a generation of crushing guilt over colonialism. It's fantastic.
And no air conditioning.
No air conditioning, but we do, from time to time, receive great benefits for our geographical location. And one of them is today's episode.
Ah, you mean when we get to play this game that no one has heard of or talked about?
No one's ever heard of this game, because most of our viewers are American, I believe, and this game was never released in America.
No, it's one of the few that we've played that is an entirely European exclusive game.
Well, Europe/Japan.
Oh, that's true, yeah. But there's a couple games where, for one reason or another, they've not come out somewhere that we played. I mean, later on in the series, we're going to be talking about something like Rule of Rose, which was like not released in the UK at all.
No, because of moral panic.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
Because there was a rat on a girl's face. And we couldn't be allowed that.
No, absolutely not.
Illbleed as well, that wasn't released in Europe.
Was it not?
Yeah, and we never had the opportunity to play Illbleed.
Yep, that's going to be one for the list.
Yeah.
Fucking Illbleed will be fun.
But today we are talking about Disaster Day of Crisis.
Yep, a game that is on this list for varying reasons. This was one of my propositions for the list.
It was indeed one of your many choices.
Yeah. That being said, I didn't know what the fuck this was entirely. I got this confused with a different game.
Yeah, so there's a long-running series of like earthquake survival games that are called the Disaster Report series.
Yeah.
Which have had a long list of different names in the West. Like, I think one of them was like Zangief No Report or something like that. I think that's what it's called in Japan.
Okay.
And then over here it was Disaster Report. It's had a whole different list of names, and that's what you thought we were playing with Disaster Day of Crisis, which seems fair.
Yeah, Disaster the Report, I'd seen some footage of it online. It seemed really funny to me. It was a game that had like a dedicated hey button to just yell hey at people.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed the clip of the second game, where the beginning of that game you're a waiter, and if you press the hey button, someone just rushes up to you, tells you to be quiet, you look down in shame, and it's a game over. And I love that.
That's it. That person's life is over.
Yeah.
They have died from social embarrassment.
Yeah. But...
So you came to me in the night, as you often do. And you said, Ash, you know what? I've been really curious about this Disaster game. I've been hearing a lot about it. It seems like a lot of fun. And I was like, I know exactly what you mean.
Mm.
Disaster Day of Crisis. So I went out and I acquired a copy, and then we started playing it, and you were like, wait a minute. This isn't Disaster. And I was like, what do you mean? It's got Disaster all over it.
It is. It's literally got the word disaster plastered massively over the top of it. Great big kind of like wave lines just over the lettering here.
Oh yeah, it's very stylish.
Yeah, it very much gives off the impression that this game is not going to be like any other game you've played. This is going to be focused entirely on the human suffering of natural disasters. Two figures are about to be washed away by a great big tidal wave. Box art is almost entirely just shades of grey. It's
It actually kind of looks rad.
It really, actually, you know what? Yeah, no, it's actually quite stylish in a way that I kind of
we
dig.
invite you to look up the Disaster Day of Crisis box art because it's really cool. Like the image is all grayscale and kind of grainy, and then the logo of the game is very bold and bright red, and it's really striking. Kind of reminds me a bit of Signalis, actually.
That's a very interesting comparison, but yeah, it's a similar color palette at the very least,
yeah.
and it's artsy.
So
I was thinking Resident Evil 4's European art, actually.
there we go. I was talking about Europe again.
Oh, God, here we go.
Just can't help ourselves.
I just love the shape of it.
All right, I'm gonna let that one go. Yeah, so Disaster. So this is a Nintendo Wii game, and not just simply a Nintendo Wii game. This is a Nintendo joint. This is a Nintendo published and Nintendo quote unquote developed video game.
Yeah, bordering first party, second party, right?
So at the time, it would have been a third-party game that was published by Nintendo, but then Nintendo went and bought the company. And which company is this, do you ask? Why? It's Monolith Soft, the creators of Xenoblade.
Yeah.
Which is a really weird thing, because apparently in between one niche GameCube RPG and one niche Wii RPG, they were just like, what if we made an action movie game? Like, what if we just did that for a bit?
Yeah, it's a very strange pivot. It's odd to think that about sort of 2 years after this game came out, they would be making Shulk running around with his friends.
Making the Renaissance Wii RPG of a generation hot off the success of Disaster Day of Crisis, a game that former Nintendo President of America CEO man Reggie Fils-Aimé called crap and stupid.
Yeah, this is the thing. So this is the polar opposite to Geist, where Reggie fucking hated this game.
No, literally, the only reason this game did not come out in the West, or in North America, I should say, is that Reggie Fils-Aimé despised this game with a particular passion. He called it overpriced and stupid and worthless, and he refused to authorize its release in North America.
That's so weird.
I mean, it's a fully localized game. It has a European localization, which obviously means it has an English localization.
Yeah.
It's entirely ready to go, and Reggie was like, nope. We got Wii music coming.
Yeah.
We don't need this shit.
But the game is set in North America. The actors are North American. It's
Yeah, this isn't a Xenoblade thing where everyone's like, oh, hello, Shulk, it's me, Ryan.
Yeah, no.
Everyone is very American. This game is about America.
Yeah.
Very specifically.
Yeah, with some interesting influences from other games that say things about America.
The president's there.
There is a president.
There are nukes.
Yeah, it's about WMDs, PMC/terrorist organizations,
mercenary groups,
yeah,
coups, power struggles.
Yeah,
it's a blockbuster kind of rollercoaster of a game.
It's not just a disaster in the natural disasters that occur, but also the disasters of the bureaucracy and.
Well, you know, Connor, it really brings to mind something that I have just been dying to say. It's truly a game of two halves, and the two halves are disaster and Day of Crisis.
What? I mean, you know what? Actually, now that you say it like that, because I know what the game is, that makes sense. But do we want to elaborate?
No.
Okay, everyone, thank you for this episode. We will
please import a European Wii.
Okay. Yeah. Do you know that much about the development of this?
No. This is another one of those games in which the Wikipedia section on the game's development is they made it. End of story. What do you think about that?
Terrific.
Yeah. Like, I could have done more independent research, but it's Disaster Day of Crisis. I believe the idea is that games in the era... So this game was released on the Wii in 2008. It might have been slightly earlier in Japan, but I don't have the release dates to hand right now. But it seems to have been released to capitalize on the trend of big cinematic blockbuster action games, kind of like your Uncharted or your Gears of War or your Prison Breaks.
Yeah.
Lots of games that are about big explosions and set pieces and lots of things crashing around and fires going off everywhere. So it seems like Nintendo were like, well, we can do that on the Wii. The Wii is the best console for high impact, high fidelity explosions. There's nowhere better for it.
You know, I can't think of anyone better.
No, you're right.
There's just no one I can.
Yeah.
No one possibly that could do it. Do we want to pivot to the plot? The plot.
Let's get to the weed, man.
Dude.
Nice.
Fucking disaster data crisis, bruh.
Clearly a man who has never spoken to someone who was high.
No, that's not true. I've spoken to high people. It turns out we're weirdly on the same wavelength.
Ah.
I just have, like, I've never had pot in my life.
He's never
and yet,
touched a pot. Okay.
and yet there's people I've met, like, for the first time where they've clearly been high and I've been speaking to them, and they come out with something and I'm just like, yeah, I completely understand you, and we just have a conversation. That's just the kind of way that I talk with people.
Just for the sake of the listeners to this podcast, when Connor was denying any culpability in having taken pot, he turned to the laptop that we're recording this on and pointed at it. And he was like defending himself, where he's like, "No, I've never done pot. I'm telling you." He was like, "Listen, you."
Listen, I'm just used to like directing it like it's a camera or a person or something like that. Look forward to when we do this podcast live in
that
person.
live recording of the legendary podcast. Look forward to it.
Like, I mean,
in person.
Yeah, when we do,
we're gonna book out the Royal Albert Hall and have like a live recording.
We're gonna invite 4 people, and then they're gonna
and you could be one of those lucky 4.
Yeah,
retweet.
Yeah, we'll have like a giveaway for tickets. Or something.
You can win this copy of Disaster Day of Crisis. Yeah. That's not true. This is my copy of Disaster Day of Crisis. You can't have it.
To be fair, exciting news is our new setup, which could be a disaster in itself right now if I struggle in post, because we are no longer in the cramped, tiny room that we recorded.
Yeah, we've upgraded. We now have what I would say is legitimately 4 times the amount of space.
Yeah, no, we're sitting in armchairs.
Yeah,
we have
I can like move my arms around. We can gesticulate.
We can, yeah. And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It feels almost professional. Like this looks. I hate to draw
the key word there was almost.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird comparison. Almost. I'm kind of picturing it almost like review, like Red Letter Media's review. we're going to evolve. We're going to have like a poster in the background of the disaster box art.
I'd like that.
Yeah, and we have like multiple camera angles and things like that.
It's a really elaborate production.
Yeah, no, I mean we've paid a lot of money on the visual element of this podcast.
No one see.
We have the great big art hanging from the wall of it's of our YouTube rant-soners doing crossed arms and like that kind of thing.
We've got a cardboard cutout of Raymond Bryce.
Yeah, we've got a VTuber set up right now. In the
fantastic.
It's of Raymond Bryce. He's the VTuber model. Let's talk about the plot.
Okay, so all right, this is the thing. You know when we were talking about Geist, and we had to specify at the start that we hadn't played through Geist for 3 years, so we couldn't remember much of the plot?
Mm-hmm.
We finished Disaster Day of Crisis about a month ago, and I've already forgotten most of the things that happens in here. But here's the setup, right? So you are Raymond Bryce, member of unspecified United States Rescue Service.
Yeah, I think he was part of some kind of special forces.
Like some kind of Red Cross looking thing. Like, the way the game opens is that Raymond and his best friend Steve, who was also part of the rescue team, has been sent to a volcano for reasons. The volcano is erupting, but there's no one there.
No.
So I'm not sure why they're there.
No one needs rescuing around here.
No one needs rescuing around here, apart from your friend Steve, who gets burnt to a fucking crisp, who is just gone. Just like, you're holding on to him, carrying him over this massive lava flow, and he's like, "Don't forget me, man. Don't forget what I told you, to keep on rescuing." Yeah. And he drops him, and he's like, "No, Steve!"
Yeah, it's incredibly tragic. Steve falls into the lavaous depths. Lavaous? That's not a word.
Lavaous. The lavaous depths.
The magma depths.
The magma depths. He is gone. There's no body to bury.
Yeah.
He is wiped out of this fucking universe. Yeah. He is gone.
Although you don't see it. Camera cuts.
It does cut away. Yeah. And then a year later, Raymond Bryce, who is now a desk worker, like he's so traumatized by the experience that he can no longer go out into the field, has been summoned by Agent Olsen, a member of a federal bureaucracy, who's like, all right, there's an elite mercenary group called Surge, and they've stolen our top earthquake scientist. This is a matter of fucking national security. They have the power of earthquakes on their side. So they use this scientist to predict that there's going to be a epic, like 10 magnitude earthquake in Blue Ridge City. And they use this window of opportunity to steal a nuclear device, which they're going to use to threaten the American government and give them a bunch of money, basically.
Which, to be fair, makes sense as a plot point because, you know, people are going to be distracted by the disaster happening. Like, something of that scale probably would be national news, and like a lot of humanitarian efforts would be going towards it. So yeah, that's a pretty good time to take your small army of former American military mercenaries and just go and steal a nuclear bomb. Because why not?
Never been a better time.
Never been a better time.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, that's the premise, is that Raymond has now been sent into Blue Ridge City to basically be a thorn in the terrorists' sides. Like, he hasn't really got a specific goal in mind. He's just kind of there.
Yeah, it's very weird. He's sent in alongside the Special Forces team that's sent there to take on Surge and, like, have the gunfight with them.
They have this epic confrontation in the world's most boring building. It's like this, like, completely grey, there's nothing in it, just, like, parking lot looking thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, Raymond Bryce himself isn't geared up in anything. Everyone else is given body armor and rifles.
Yeah, they're like a SWAT team.
Yeah.
They're a professional unit.
Yeah. Raymond Bryce is in a t-shirt, his jeans, his fucking handgun that he keeps concealed, to the point that the first time you actually go into the room, into the building, there's a gunfight going on between Surge and the Special Forces team, and Raymond Bryce has to kind of keep his head down during all the firefighting.
It's like you're just like kind of sneaking around the peripheries of the fight, watching it go down rather than being a participant.
Yeah. I think Surge can very clearly see you, but they don't shoot you because, as far as they're aware, you look like a non-combatant. You eventually go in there, like, basically to rescue any of the injured Special Forces members who are struggling in the fight, while still going up the building with very little resistance.
So it's quite amusing to me, because the reason why this then changes is that Raymond is basically watching the Special Forces fight Surge, and he basically says, "You guys suck at this, I'm going in."
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, let me show you how it's done."
Yeah, because like you see like these two guys who like they're having a shootout in a corridor, and they're hiding behind one of the junctions leading into another corridor. But then they just go, "What if I just leave cover and walk out into the open and get immediately shot?" And Raymond watches this and he's like, "Oh, you fucking goddamn it. Guess it's up to me again to fight 1 million guys one-handed."
Yeah, so this is the thing. This game has about 23 levels. And given some of the pacing of some of them, we thought, oh, this won't be particularly long. There are so many shootouts across the entire game against so many guys. I thought Surge was just kind of a fairly plausible group of maybe about 200 tops people. But you fight so many dudes, you're shooting up a small army.
Literally waves after wave of men.
Yeah.
It's endless.
As you go across the entire game, you go from city to city and such during this whole ordeal. But I'm jumping a little bit ahead. Once you get to the top of the building, you go to where the climate scientist is being held hostage by this crazed gunman with his, like, spiky blonde hair, as well as this girl called Lisa, who turns out to be the sister of Steve. So Raymond Bryce now has a personal investment in trying to help Lisa and the climate scientist and rescue this, not just for the sake of national security, but for himself, because he had something of Steve's that he needed to give to Lisa.
It's like a medallion or something, right? Like a pocket watch.
Yeah, despite the fact that it's been a year, never got around to it. Never gave it to Lisa. Apparently he knew Lisa before this all happened, but he was like...
No, because that's one of the personal dramas that unfurls across the entire story, is that, like, after the scene in which you encounter Lisa and the climate scientist for the first time, which I should say, he's not a climate scientist, he is a soothsayer, he is a fortune teller, because in this scene he's like, "Here it comes," and then like 5 seconds later the earthquake starts. So it's like, he's so good at earthquake Scientology, so good at earthquake science that he can just predict when earthquakes are going to happen to the second.
Yeah, like he's kind of incredible.
Sorry, after you've done that and they've been helicoptered away, the scientist is like, "Lisa, do you know that man?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's the man who killed my brother."
Dun dun dun.
And it's like, that's not really what happened at all, but sure, go off.
Yeah, Raymond Bryce completely fails to save the two of them, and they get whisked away in the helicopter. At this point, it becomes a, not quite globe-trotting, it becomes a state-trotting adventure.
Coast-trotting adventure.
Yeah, across Blue Ridge City, across the countryside, across the mountains and the like.
Across the other city.
Another city.
Which name we have forgotten.
Yeah, because they might as well have been the same place, to be honest.
Yeah. It was flooding rather than earthquaking.
Yeah, basically chasing down the members of Surge to try and save the climate scientists and to save Lisa, all while facing this small army of Surge members and the assortment of specialists that work for Surge, including such great characters as Gregory. and
the Colonel.
and the Colonel.
Yeah.
Major, what's his name?
Major Evans.
Major Evans, the
Yeah.
most boring-looking man who's ever been made.
But don't worry, Connor. Deep down inside, he's a crazy guy. He's a sicko.
Yeah, like these characters. So they usually the way they'll present Surge for the most part is they'll have the Colonel, who's like mild-mannered, very much sort of like professional leader of the members of Surge.
He looks like the villain from Avatar.
He does actually. He looks like that fucking guy with the white hair.
Yeah.
From James Cameron's Avatar.
It doesn't look like
like
Fire
Lord
Lord
Jose.
Although some of them do look like that kind of guy with the spiky hair.
Yeah, they do.
Like the crazy big muscly guy looks like that.
Yeah, there's a few crazed guys, and the crazy muscular guy with the white hair, he kind of looks a bit like Virgil from Devil May Cry.
Yeah, they're a real B-Tim Metal Gear squad.
Yeah,
They're
really...
kind of going for that vibe.
Yeah, and then there's like Major Evans, who's just quietly there in the background being the...
He's like the second-hand man, right?
Yeah, the right-hand man to the whole thing. And they just go gradually through more and more crazy people as like Raymond Bryce takes them down as the search gets more and more complicated.
And it's always like in synchronicity with some disaster that's happening. So you'll fight like the first boss while an earthquake's happening, and the next boss like during a tsunami and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's very silly. So the kind of basics is that this is a cinematic third-person action game with a linear mission-based structure in which you are basically going from disaster to disaster while mixing quite a lot of genres together.
Yeah.
Like, this is very much a set-piece game. You kind of go from set-piece to set-piece to set-piece with all these ridiculous, crazy things happening, and that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two general gameplay styles that make up the core of this. One of which is a third-person exploration area where you have to break open items, explore areas, find people who are in peril and try to save them.
Yeah, rather fittingly, this is actually the section of the game that is the most similar to Disaster Report. Like, these sections are basically what you do in Disaster Report, but they're only one part of this game's constitution.
Yeah. While the other half of this game is a light gun shooter, effectively a point and click using the Wiimote to shoot wave after wave of...
hundreds and hundreds of evil American mercenaries who just... They just, like, fly from the heavens. They arrive on trams. They just fling out of every hole.
Yeah,
like, it's crazy.
It's some real Time Crisis stuff, but without the Time Crisis art style that kind of gives it a slightly cartoony flair. This game is very much washed out grays and browns and things like that, so it's trying to be kind of gritty and realistic, but people still just emerge. We played a little bit just to kind of refresh ourselves, and people were rappelling from the sky from presumably nowhere.
It's fantastic.
It's also great because for the most part, every soldier looks like a kind of Counter-Strike enemy, where they're all got like balaclavas and things like that on.
Yeah, they look like I've downloaded them from a Unity store pack.
Yeah,
they're all very generic looking.
Whereas you occasionally get ones that are like in bright purple body warmers and bandanas that turn up.
Or like wearing bright yellow sweaters. And stuff like that.
Yeah. What? Some of them look like Geist enemies.
Like, they do look like Geist enemies.
It's very weird.
Well, because that's the thing about it, is that this game feels very much like a product of its time. Like that cinematic, grungy, very, very monochrome visuals, but it's being filtered through two qualifiers. One is that it's being made by a niche Japanese role-playing development studio.
Yeah.
And the other is that it's being made for the Wii. So it's like it's trying to do the Uncharted thing, but it's still a weird niche Japanese game. So it has all these elements which are similar, but then it's like, but also it's a light gun shooter and people repel from the heavens and do shooting mini games, and it's a whole thing.
It really is. I mean, other than those two general kind of gameplay styles, like what else is there really? There's the kind of mini games.
Yeah, so when you're in the third-person exploration sections, the rescue sections is what I'll dub them.
Yeah.
There are people around, and actually, this is where your hopes and your expectations were met, because you do have a dedicated "Hey" button.
Yes, you do.
But our hero, the lovable and charismatic Raymond Bryce, which is a fantastic name, he will yell. He's like, is anybody out there?
Yeah, is anyone here? Like that kind of thing to people.
And if there's no one around, he'll just go, oh, there's no one and he's rescuing around here.
Yeah, he has a very stern, no one needs rescuing around here kind of thing.
For that one. That was,
I did.
A voice like velvet.
Yeah, thank you. I try. But that's what I was expecting. And that's the kind of strange thing, is that I don't know if this was influenced by Disaster Report, because these are two very different games, and yet from that side of the game, at least, they're kind of very similar.
The rescue sections are basically identical.
All right.
From what I know of Disaster Report, I think they saw that and went, we're just going to do that.
Yeah, well, Disaster Day of Crisis brings a heck of a lot more to the table, though. It spreads itself very thin across multiple genres, because there's not only the rescuing side, the shooting side. There's driving sections.
There's driving sections in which you have to remove the nunchuck from the controller.
Yeah, it's
Like, it will come up with a message and it's like, take out the nunchuck, you dingus, and hold the Wiimote on its side.
yeah, it's like a Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Like
We should have got a Wii Wheel, man.
we really should have plugged the Wii Wheel in just to get
Plug
that
the Wii Wheel
effect
in.
and pretend that we were Luigi going through the fucking Rainbow Road.
Yeah. Well, it's like Monolith Soft got this brief of making a cinematic game focused around natural disasters, and they just went hard on every aspect of it. They were just like, all right, we're going to have earthquakes, tsunamis, lava, fire tornadoes. There's going to be driving sections. There's going to be mechs. You're going to have fucking nukes going around. There's going to be boss fights and shooting sections, and we're just going to go completely crazy with it in a really commendable way.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that in many ways, I feel like kind of the way to put it is that a lot of Disasters gameplay sections are very thinly spread and aren't particularly great.
No.
But I have to commend the game for being thoroughly entertaining from an angle of, like, things just happen. I like your way of putting it earlier today when you were saying that this is the kind of game where you start trying to fall asleep to it and then someone shakes you and you go, and
yeah, so this is a factor of our disaster playing that I think is important to get across. We do sometimes talk about the conditions in which we've played each game, and for some reason, Disaster made us incredibly sleepy.
Yeah.
Like, you would come over to my house to play it, and we'd be in this big room, and this, for anyone who's listening in the future, I suppose, we were playing this game in June, which I know we live in Britain and it's not that hot here, but for us, it was very hot.
Yeah, again, no AC.
Yeah.
The buildings are designed to keep heat in, so when it does come in, it just doesn't fucking leave.
So we were just sitting there in my room, and like, because you know how the Wiimote and Nunchuck are two independent things, and you can kind of hold them separately. So you just kind of like lean back in your chair, and your arms are slumped over the sides, like, all right, we're playing Disaster, we're gonna get through.
Oh God,
like,
yeah.
Even though it is a really high octane, high energy game, something about how off kilter it is made me incredibly drained. Not necessarily in a negative way, I just couldn't help but feel sleepy playing this game.
Yeah.
Like, so much so that the effect was entirely repeated when we were playing it today.
Yeah.
Because I came over and I was pretty high energy. I was like, we were having a good conversation. And then we started playing Disaster, and within 10 minutes I was like, okay, Connor, we need to drag this guy over.
You really do. Yeah. Did we actually elaborate much on the minigame section? I realized we mentioned it and didn't talk about what you do in it. Because you mentioned about dragging people.
Well, that's the thing that's hard about describing this game, is that there's so much that happens in it.
Yeah.
So many, like, little individual bespoke sections. But yeah, please talk about the rescue sections.
So the rescue sections, which is whenever you explore the overworld, you run into people who are in need of help. Raymond Bryce being the rescue expert that he is, like, from a special operations unit.
It's very unclear.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck he did for a living. He was a Navy SEAL or something. What happens is you encounter a person that's in peril, and Raymond Bryce will try to help them with whatever the issue is.
Well, my favorite thing about it is that when you're trying to find them, if you press the Z button to search, that's like the call out button. It's basically like a lock on, and Raymond will spin on the spot and just go, "Hey!"
Yeah. The camera will just lock on.
Yeah,
onto
like you can run up to someone who is clearly in distress and is in need of rescuing, and Raymond could just stand there going, "Is anybody out there?" like right in front of them, and they're like, "I'm right here, bro."
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
come
like
on.
help me out.
But sometimes they might have like a broken leg and need to be moved to shelter, so you have to do a mini game of like dragging or carrying them somewhere, which. Usually the shelter isn't anywhere of any actual shelter.
Yeah,
it's just
it's like you move them from one rubble to another rubble.
Yeah, it's about like 10 yards away. In other cases, it might be that someone is covered in dirt and has an injury. So, this is a bit of a heavy one to just jump into. Raymond Bryce, right? He has to clean the wounds in order to then stitch them up.
So these sections are done in first person.
Yeah, they're in first person. So you suddenly spray a massive jet of water at the person to gradually take off the dirt. If anyone has ever played like maybe something like Trauma Center, or even like one of those weird flash games about being a doctor, like that you'd get on your PC if you were like a child, they'd be a bit like that. This massive geyser of water just shoots out from the first person perspective onto the wound.
It erupts onto this person.
It erupts onto them before you then have to find the wound if it shows up, and waggle the stick on the Wii nunchuck in a circle in order to wrap a bandage around them, which is usually just closing a circle in on them on the UI.
So that all sounds above board, Connor.
Yeah.
But what's the one issue here?
Right. Raymond Bryce, throughout the entirety of the game, He's in a black t-shirt and like brownish jeans and like his sneakers and his weird little quiffy haircut. He looks a bit like what's he called from Final Fantasy 15?
Oh, Noctis.
No,
Gladiolus.
Gladiolus, yeah. He looks like Gladiolus from Final Fantasy 15. Where the fuck is the water coming from?
We like to think he's a Squirtle.
Yeah, I like
he's
to
just going bleh.
Yeah, I like to think he's like a Blastoise. He has like a big jet, on his
that
back
comes out of
that
his
he just
shoulders.
blasts into the person. Because other than that, it looks like you're like pissing on them or you're fucking vomiting.
It's very,
water.
very disconcerting. I remember the first time we did it, we were just like, wait, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, like Jesus Christ, because there's another point later in the game where there's a house on fire, and the whole point of it is you need to find a fire hose, rig it up to a fire hydrant, and take it over to put this fire out. And that makes sense for the water mechanic. He doesn't take this hose with him for the entire journey. So I like to think, yeah, he's just like a water elemental. He's a Pokemon.
He's either pissing or he's vomiting. Something not good is happening.
Yeah, it's just he's got like a secret tank of water somewhere that he can just empty like liter after liter.
I don't think you understand. Raymond Bryce is a rescue specialist. He is the world's most effective rescuer.
That's true. He's trained to like keep gallons of water kept up in like
a squirrel.
Yeah, like a squirrel in his like little cheeks.
Or a cactus.
Or a cactus, yeah. I mean,
that's why his hair's so spiky.
Yeah, he's a prickly fella.
Yeah. Is he?
I mean, his hair is.
That's true. He's more of a anodyne, boring fella.
Yeah, I don't think the Wii has the technology to make him like have every little single body hair on his body stick out. There's a few spiky people in that game. They've all got spiky hair.
They do, yeah, because they're all evil.
Yes.
They're all part of the evil mercenary group
Surge. Oh my fucking god.
My favorite rescue mini games are the ones where it's a person lying on the ground and they're like, oh no, I've become very injured. If only I had the right kind of tool.
Yeah.
And they look at Raymond like, eh? And you've got to select from your little list of items.
Yeah.
My favorite being the one where someone's like, they're like lying next to a collapsed building and they're like, yeah, so this building collapsed next to me, but that's not the problem. I'm just really hungry.
Yeah.
And you feed them some crackers, and I'm like, I feel so great now.
You just give them a little pack of salted crackers,
yeah.
and they're fine.
They
just needed their blood sugar up.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Thank you. Now I can go die in another abandoned building somewhere.
It's amazing. I fucking love this game.
Do you?
Well, all right.
That's a qualified love.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that this game isn't good, but I very much enjoy its moxie, its fucking gall, as it were.
It's a real high-energy, freewheeling, what is going to happen next? Are we going to be in a fucking fire tornado? Is there going to be a tsunami? Are we going to have to rescue 25 guys from the 1 million surge troops? Will we find a burger in a bin that Raymond will immediately just eat in one bite?
No, sorry, we have to talk about that as well. Probably the general game mechanics of like how you navigate during the rescue sections.
Yeah.
So this isn't like a typical game where you've just got like a health meter and that's it. You have a health bar for your general vitality, and you tend to lose the most health in combat when you're getting shot at by Surge. But you've also got a lung meter, so if your lungs are filling up with smoke from rubble or fires or things like that, you might suffocate. There's a heartbeat as well, which prevents you from being able to sprint everywhere. So Raymond Bryce has the stamina of a fucking
of
us. Yeah, we're not particularly fit people. He'll run about like maybe about sort of 10 meters and then run out of breath.
Yeah. Although he does practice very good breathing.
He does, yeah.
At any point you can press a button and Raymond will take a deep breath. He's like,
yeah. He really should have. If Raymond Bryce was in Smash Brothers like he should have been, and not that poser show, he should have had the Wii Fit Trainer's like breathing mechanic as part of his.
Really looking forward to Raymond Bryce's iconic taunt. Now it's Raymond Bryce time.
No, he'll go, no one needs rescuing around here.
Because I've killed them all.
Oh my fucking god, I love Raymond Bryce. He
is not a character.
No, he's not.
He has no real personality traits or backstory. Other than that, his friend Steve died near a volcano, and that's related to something.
Alright, so he doesn't... Here's the thing, right? He doesn't compete at all. He's not even on the same level as Leon.
No.
But would you say that Raymond is qualifiable enough to be a himbo?
I don't know if he's stupid, though. Although he does run like a moron.
He does.
Like, he has this real, like, arms flinging, like Looney Tunes run. So it's like, the game is always trying to do these really impactful, tense, like, you're running away from like a erupting volcano.
Hmm.
But Raymond is just like gunning it down the street, like
Yeah, and he looks back on himself and he looks really goofy. Like when we were playing it, I was comparing it to whenever you play Crash Bandicoot on the boulder levels.
Yeah, it looks
he has
just like that.
almost exactly the same energy, which is just, tickle me pink.
Yeah, like I'll come and go.
Yeah, but
Look forward to the 6 Crash episodes.
Yeah, we played a lot of Crash games, and I would love to talk about all of them. But much to Ash's chagrin.
Can't we just talk about all the 7 Resident Evil games that we played?
Well, we're gonna do that as well. I have to that's the thing. Swings and roundabouts. You bring to the table all the Resident Evils. I bring to you Crashes and Spyros and Halo games. You also bring the Haunted Mansion license game, which will be fucking great, I presume.
Haunted Mansion license game. Look forward to it. It's going to be amazing.
I will.
Yeah. As a tease.
Yeah, hey.
Time to release with the new movie.
Oh my
The
god.
Haunted Mansion movie that's coming out. We'll talk about the Haunted Mansion license game for a different movie that came out 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because we are relevant.
Exactly.
No one can prove otherwise.
Blisteringly relevant, just like a Resident Evil 4.
Oh, fantastic.
But I want to briefly go back to the items, because I mentioned about all these bars and things to manage. Generally speaking, there's 4 items you can collect around the world. There are plasters instead of band-aids, because European localization, and first aid kits. And both of those items just replenish your health. You can pause, whenever you're doing the shooting sections, you can pause the game, use those items to heal yourself in a pinch. It's very useful. There's also crackers, which increase your stamina, which that's another kind of ticking time and health bar.
Yeah.
Because if you run out of stamina, regardless of your health, your lungs, your heartbeat, anything like that, you will lose. You will die. Raymond Bryce becomes too tired to do anything.
Yeah.
So you need to eat crackers in order to keep your stamina up.
But that raises an obvious question, Connor. If there are 2 tiers of healing item, the band-aid and the first aid kit, why is there not a similar thing for food items?
Well, simply put, it's because of 2 reasons. One, because there's a final 4th item, which is the ampoule, which is...
it's called staminas.
Oh, staminas. It
Yeah.
just looks like an ampoule.
Yeah.
Where the whole point of it is that it freezes your stamina bar instead of you replenishing it. But secondly, because another way to get stamina is through random pickups in the world, where when you run around the world, you can punch open barrels and rocks and trash cans and things like that.
And when we say punch open, we mean like a 1-2 combo. Like Raymond Bryce will go up to a bin and fucking uppercut it.
Yeah.
It'll be like, huh, huh, huh.
Yeah, literally he'll do fucking like fighting game combo moves.
Like he's fighting that car in Street Fighter.
Yeah, literally. So that
to do that, you have to wave the Wii remote as well.
And like a game like Castlevania, as soon as he breaks it open, you reveal just food in there.
Yeah.
A gigantic can of fruit drink, a massive burger that's the size of his head.
Yeah, a big steak.
Yeah, like a Monster Hunter style steak on a bone. And I think like a crocodile, like a tiny lizard.
like a Louisiana like kebab crocodile looking thing.
Yeah,
like
which it just like floats there like really
like,
video
I remember
game.
the first time we saw it, we didn't know what it was, and I was like, don't eat it, and then we ate it, and it was like, we have to find another one of those to figure out what that stupid thing was.
Yeah, what the fuck it was, and it turns out, no, that was a lizard.
That was just a straight up lizard.
That's the thing, because I assumed that from the architecture of the levels that they were supposed to be kind of like a weirdly like Shadow the Hedgehog, like Seattle, right?
No, the whole game is set on the West Coast.
On the West, yeah.
I think it's like California mostly.
Oh, so it might be like north of San Fran, or something like that. Yeah,
or like in the earthquake zones, right?
Yeah, because like an earthquake is the big part of the plot, and there's also
that's the first disaster is a massive earthquake.
Yeah, and then there's like the fire tornado, the tsunami that's pending over, the volcanic eruptions. So the mech.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to the fucking mech.
So now that we've talked about the rescue sections, do you want to talk a little bit about the shooting sections? Especially as you are the marksman expert Deadeye of the group, and I am a mere mortal compared to you.
Yeah, I know you're not particularly fond of...
I'm just not good at them, man. I just couldn't make it happen.
I mean, I'm not particularly great at light gun stuff myself. I mean, the other day I went to the arcade with my partner and she fucking kicked my ass.
Yeah.
Fucking not Dead or Alive. House of the Dead.
Yeah.
Why do I get those names mixed up? I do.
A cooperative game, if memory serves.
Yes, it is.
And yet, somehow she kicked your ass.
Well, score-wise, yeah. So, these shooting sections, these are kind of roughly based on a kind of light gun style approach where you're kind of on rails a bit.
Yeah, the Wii is a very appropriate platform to replicate that kind of gameplay post flat screen TVs.
Yeah, which makes sense, to be
Yeah.
honest, given the Wiimote and everything. You use the B button, which is your kind of trigger in order to shoot.
Which is a very good point about the way we were playing this game, because my Wiimote's B button seems to be slightly broken.
It does, yeah. So there's times where it would kind of get stuck and just wouldn't
Yeah.
fire.
It really enhanced the experience, I feel.
It really did, because I'd line up a shot and just not be able to fire at all, and then next thing I know, I'd be fucking shot to shit by the members of Surge.
By the boys down from Surge.
Yeah. Well, sure are a lot of them. I'll give Surge credit. They know how to fight like a unit. They're still
They'll flank you. They'll like attack from both sides. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, if you're focusing on one person, another one is going to be shooting you at that point in time. Like, it's tricky. It's tricky to really, like, nail it. You have to be very aggressive on the fly first try.
Yeah.
You need to be, a lot of the time, the best way to go through that game unharmed is to know exactly where the enemy is going to be. Immediately use your kind of like weird focus zoom points.
Yeah, you have like a concentration gauge where you can like, you'll zoom the screen in and any shot you take during that window will do like twice the damage.
Yeah, it'll do a lot more damage, and in some cases...
That's the good point, is that enemies have health bars.
They do.
It's not like you shoot them and they're dead because they have a bullet in their head. No, they have massive health bars.
They do, yeah. So you've got to upgrade your weapons as well in order to do more damage as the game goes on, but that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. That concentration gauge, I didn't ever find I needed to upgrade it.
No.
That's something you can do, is you can upgrade the duration of it, but you get enough of it that honestly you can just take cover again by holding down the Z button in order to hide away from enemy fire. You have to purposefully hold it down though to stay in cover.
Yeah,
which...
it's a lot like Time Crisis, where you've got to push that pedal to initiate attacking, and all other times you'll be in cover.
Yeah, I feel as though Disaster Day of Crisis is the opposite, where by default you're out of cover and you have to hold it down to be in cover.
Yeah.
Which feels weird. It makes sense, but it felt a bit odd.
Yeah.
Still, at any case, you can generally stay in cover and be away from most harm. However, if you are facing an enemy that has a rocket launcher or some kind of explosive weapon, the splash damage will go through you regardless of if you're taking cover. You have to ensure you're taking down those enemies as quick as you can, though you can shoot the rockets out of the air, and that's helpful.
Pretty cool, yeah. And the concentration helps a lot with that as well.
It really does.
If you shoot the rocket close enough to the enemy who has fired it, it will actually do splash damage back on them, which is really satisfying.
I kind of wish in a way that it had the max pain bullet time thing, where...
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the whole point, right, of concentration. But concentration is just like a damage modifier. Like, it doesn't actually slow it time down or anything.
No, which is, I guess that's a different way of doing it. It's not the end of the world, but it would have been probably nicer for the game feel to have concentration have that mechanic. There's a reason why other games cottoned onto it and did it later.
Well, because that's the thing about the shooting sections. That's maybe the biggest... I have two major criticisms of the shooting sections, beyond the fact that I just suck really bad at them. The first is that the game kind of has run out of new ideas with the shooting sections by like stage 8 of 23. So like by a certain point, you just get bored of them, and it's just the same thing over and over. You're just going down the same endless corridors, and the same guys run out, and they just go blah blah blah, and you shoot them, and they're gone.
Yeah,
and it really doesn't evolve or change much over the course of the game to justify such a massive amount of them, because some of them are really long.
Yeah, no, there was one in particular that we got stuck on for about an hour and a half, something like that.
I think we had to like stop and come back to it.
Yeah, we were running out of resources as it were anyway to keep ourselves healed and everything. Even though there are items in the world that you can shoot in order to get the health items.
Even with that, we were still getting our asses handed to us.
Yeah, we really were. But the whole point of that fight thematically is that halfway through that fight, you get joined by members of the US Army, and you have like a big push.
Yeah,
it's part of the last-ditch attempt to stop Surge and to stop them activating the nuclear bomb. And we thought to ourselves, well, that was really fucking hard. We blew through almost everything that we had, and we were joined by people, and it felt like a big storming at the beach moment. This has to be the last shooting section in the game. We're on like the second to last level full stop.
No, there's another one like immediately afterwards, and you don't get like any more resources.
Yeah, and there's more and more and more, and none of them are anywhere near as exciting or anything like that. They don't feel like...
Yeah, because like this one, you're like crossing a bridge that has got the last remnants of Surge's power centered on it. Like you're piling through their final line of defense, and it's like the rain is coming down, and like they've got your girlfriend there. Well, not girlfriend, be the female character you've got to save. And it's kind of exciting, although it does lead me on to my other criticism of the shooting sections, is that they feel a bit Carnival Games-esque. Like, they feel very clockwork. Like enemies will pop out and go blah poo poo blah poo poo.
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
it doesn't feel very organic. It's very video gamey in a way that I found kind of tedious.
That's the thing. For as much as I was giving it credit for feeling like, oh, those enemies sure know how to fucking cover each other in terms of fire, it is still very routine.
Yeah, it's like a very good shooting gallery, but it doesn't make it feel like an actual tense situation.
Yeah, I think honestly, despite the fact that the shooting is perfectly functional, I think it's the least interesting gameplay style in this game.
It's very plain.
Yeah, it's just combat. Like
Yeah.
every video game involves shooting people. It's not particularly special or unique. Which is kind of why I think at some point we should play Disaster Report to get a game that's focused entirely on just navigating rescuing.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a really interesting point of comparison as well, as the world's preeminent disaster game scholars that we will become.
Well, I guess so, right? I mean, a few people have probably covered these games.
Oh, yeah,
but like we could give a little bit of attention to it because
I think so, yeah.
why not?
Like I said, it'd be a really good comparison point just
Yeah.
to see how this game has taken that formula and tried to expand it in some ill-conceived but admirable ways.
Yeah. Do you mind if I pivot towards the driving sections just for a brief moment?
Oh yeah, if you want to embarrass yourself in front of all of our
Hey,
podcast
now,
viewers.
all right, listen. I'll give a completely unbiased take on the driving sections here. So
Let me just set up the stage for you first so you understand the context.
Right.
Connor is what you would consider to be a professional level driver. He is so good at racing games, he can beat Ridge Racer Type 0 on medium.
You mean... Fuck you. I fucking listen. One time he just spontaneously came over for I don't remember the reason, and I was fucking like, oh yeah, I'm just playing Ridge Racer Type 4 on Expert, and I was just doing that, and I was like, Ash, look, I did it. I won. Like,
And if that's not enough to satisfy you, we once attended a Mario Kart 8 tournament in which Connor came second.
fuck off. Hey, you were in that too, and you
Yeah.
came third.
But
All
I
right.
pretended to be an expert driver, so.
I'm not. You're the one that given me this label.
But anyway,
I don't
so
like to brag.
you're the big man of this relationship. I'm a dainty girl in the dress. I was doing the rescue sections. You were doing the shooting and the driving.
Yeah, because I'm a big macho man. I
Yeah.
love Vin Diesel and Fast.
And he's sitting with his legs so wide apart right now.
Fuck off. Fucking man spreading on.
Yeah.
On
He's got one hand on it as well. He's like really leaning into it. It's powerful. I feel like he's gonna pass me a bottle of moonshine.
So I did most of the driving sections, and for the most part, I had legitimately quite good fun with them.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of context in that we had recently been playing the 2008 Alone in the Dark reboot, which has driving sections which are legitimately god awful.
Yeah.
So it was quite refreshing to do the disaster ones, which are quite fun.
Yeah, they legitimately were.
Like you're spinning the Wiimote around and there's things exploding everywhere and like tornadoes and the rain's coming down. It's
Yeah.
actually quite thrilling.
Yeah, and for the most part as well, I managed to beat every level first try, except for one that I kept just fucking up.
Yeah,
And
it was
I-
getting real testy as well.
you had to like follow a particular car or something like that, and it always just felt like absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And then Ash was like, "Look, let me have a try," and I pass it over to Ash, and she fucking wipes the floor with it in one
I nailed
try.
it first try because I am what you would call a professional driver. I have finished Ridge Racer Type 0 on easy. I once went to a Mario Kart 8 tournament and came third. And that's why I'm the greatest driver of the two of us.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. For the record, the person who came first in that tournament was the guy who fucking ran it.
Yeah, it was rigged. It was rigged.
It was kind of rigged. He won his own gift card.
Right, you congressman. You start a movement for us. Come
Yeah,
on.
please. Justice for the List Goes On hosts.
Anyway, so those are kind of the genres of the game, which is one of the really exciting, interesting things about it is that it does feel like this kind of cornucopia of different styles and tastes of moods. Like it's kind of trying to fuse a bunch of things together. And it doesn't necessarily do a good job because you're Monolith Soft making a Wii game in 2008. But it's really admirable that they went so hard.
Yeah.
Like, they really could have just phoned it in, but they actually went, no, we're going to make the most game that ever has been made.
Yep, and I'm glad because it made for a really interesting game on this list. This is the kind of thing that I look for when we play these things. Is I like things that are, you know, maybe not necessarily good, but they're very interesting.
Yeah, zany, off-kilter, freewheeling, wonderful times.
Exactly. Like Clock Tower 3 left an incredibly grand impression upon me, and I was
Well, it's
looking
no
for
Clock
games-
Tower 3, to be fair.
Well, no, but no game is. We've never really reached that high.
No, but that's the thing, is the Clock Tower... Not Clock Tower 3, I just want to talk about Clock Tower 3 again. Disaster Day of Crisis, I kind of wibble on it, in which I want to say that it's a game that's more than the sum of its parts. And then sometimes I go, no, actually, it's the exact value for some of its parts. Like, it's actually a a series of very uninspired, bland, like not very competent sections that form a very incompetent, bland game. But I want to like it because it's so goofy and it's so irreverent and it's so just really odd. Like it's just like there's no other game really quite like it, and that makes me want to like it, even though it's not good or even that funny.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah.
In a way, I'm glad that we played this and not Disaster Report, because it's given me like a train of thought and a perspective on this that I wouldn't have expected.
Exactly. There you go. And when we return to Disaster Report 4 plus Summer Memories, we can go to it with new eyes and a new perspective on the world.
Damn right.
Yeah.
That should be the one we play. Not any other Disaster Report. We'll
that's the
play
one.
the Summer Memories one.
Summer Memories, man.
So we've kind of gone through generally the overview. There's only one other thing I suppose is worth talking about.
Yeah.
Which is that in between the sections of the game, there's a kind of overarching skill point and progression system.
Yes, you earn. It's really irritating though, because you only earn skill points for shooting.
Yeah.
You don't get them for driving or for rescuing, which is really frustrating.
No, you can find. Oh no, you do get them for rescuing. You basically you get two different types of skill points. You get personal ones and you get like combat ones. Actually.
Oh no, that
yeah. You can only.
Please excuse me. It's been 2 months.
No, it's fair. The shooting ones you get from the shooting sections, which makes sense, but you don't really get enough of the sort of general ones from like the other sections. You can find them lying around in places here and there, but
it's also like the upgrades that you can get for Raymond kind of suck.
Yeah, they do.
Most of them are just like, it requires less punches to break boxes.
Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of useful, but I don't care.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the 5 kind of like spokes of it are, because it's like, there's the concentration gauge for weapons, there's the metabolism gauge, which is when you find...
It doesn't go down as quickly.
Yeah, there's the hand-to-hand for punching general environmental things. I think you can technically punch people during the shooting sections, but in most circumstances, it's easier to just shoot them, so we barely ever did it. There is a skill that is just called firearms, which isn't in the weapons section.
Yeah, we were always a little confused about what it actually did.
Yeah, it seems like it makes the weapons hit a bit harder in general, but it was kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
And I think the last one was inventory, which was how much space you actually had to...
Oh, that one was kind of useful, because we kept running out of space for crackers.
We did?
Yeah, we had too many crackers in that pocket, we couldn't store all of them.
No, that's true. He was just filled to the brim with them. Just every orifice. He couldn't shoot his little like water beam out of his mouth because he
was so parched.
Yeah, the crackers just dried him out. Yeah. As for the combat kind of skills, they generally are a weapon-to-weapon basis, because there's generally speaking 4 weapon slots. You've got one for a handgun, which has infinite ammunition, one for an assault rifle, one for a shotgun, and one for a special weapon, which is anything from like a bowgun or a minigun to rocks that you can throw.
I think you can get a laser gun as well.
Yeah. You have to unlock these weapons via a shooting range minigame.
Yes, which you unlock by receiving tickets from a mysterious supernatural old man.
Yeah, which
was like, "Hello, Sonny, would you like to come to my shooting range?"
Yeah,
we're in the middle of an earthquake right now, but go on.
Yeah, he's dressed like the guy from the monorail episode of The Simpsons. He's got a round straw hat and like stripy shirt and things.
And he's clearly not of this world.
No.
He can teleport. He's like a mysterious force.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be affected or think about the disaster in any way. And you get these tickets from him to do the shooting mini games, which cost weapon points, by the way.
It does,
to play.
yeah. So if you fail it, you have to put more upgrade points into doing it again.
Yeah, which is why we unfortunately have to say we did not use the special weapons, because we weren't going to go through that shit.
Listen, there are some games that we play where we feel compelled to give everything at least a shot. Where we're like, we need to understand every part of this, because we like this game a lot. We want to see it all. Disaster was not one of those games.
No.
Disaster was the most, we're just going to fucking finish this game as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I'd still say I like Disaster Report overall, but it was not worth the grind or the effort that it was demanding.
We just wanted to see the dumb disasters and shoot a bunch of dudes. We didn't want to engage with those systems as much.
No. And in general, in terms of the weapons, I tend to find, honestly, that the pistol and the shotgun were my general favorites. I think the assault rifle was mainly useful for the 1 or 2 sections where you only really need to hit something once or twice. Occasionally in combat, especially in a boss fight, enemies will have a certain like weak point that comes up.
Oh, it's called like a smart shot.
Yeah, where a purple ring comes around them, and any shot will do a ton of damage if you're able to land it. But it's a very narrow window a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's worth at that point pulling out the assault rifle and spraying at it just to see if
just
you're
to
able
ensure
to.
that you're going to get it.
Yeah. However,
It's good for getting items as well.
yes. Yeah,
They're
no.
like barrels scattered in the level, but you have to shoot them multiple times to get them to break.
Yeah, so the assault rifle's good for that because it means you can just put bullet after
exactly.
bullet in. But other than that, I tend to find I most enjoyed using the infinite handgun. I made the executive decision because you can kind of split in between having a light handgun with lots of bullets but little damage, or a heavy handgun which starts off with 2 rounds per magazine, but it does a lot of damage. And I made the choice to spec into the heavy one, give it more rounds, and kind of focus on that. And I'm really glad I did because that became a very satisfying weapon to like pull out against the.
Yeah, I was very much okay with you doing all of these shooting sections and making these decisions because I did a shooting section once late in the game, and I did such a poor job that we had to restart a level because we didn't have enough resources to get past a certain section.
No, you're right.
Because I was not good at those sections at all.
Oh my god. Well, I mean, the viewers will have to hear about if you're feeling embarrassed about that. The viewers will have to hear later on about when we played Resident Evil 2, and when I fucked up the first encounter with the liquor so hard that you were like, Connor, we have to reload the fucking save.
Yeah, I was a real taskmaster when we were playing Resident Evil. I was like, Connor, why are you not speedrun optimizing this bullshit? What are you doing? Where are you going?
I was like, I'm gonna kill the zombie.
No! Never use the fun gun. How dare you?
But we eventually, but the shotgun I think was pretty good fun.
I mean, shotguns are just the MVP gun in most games, right? They're just the most satisfying.
Yeah, I guess Signalis might have been the only real dampener on shotguns.
Very good. That was weird.
No, that was
Real letdown.
Yeah, it was a bit. But the weapons in this game have like very weird names. There's like they're called like the Squealer and the Big Fish.
Yeah, those are the guns we had by the end. Was the Squealer and the Big Fish.
Yeah, but honestly, even without the special weapons, they were enough to carry us through the game. And I think the general upgrade points were quite basic things. It was capacity, power, reload time. Yeah, I think actually the concentration time might have been per weapon. I don't remember what the 5th one was as like personal skills.
No, we refuse to do any more research.
Yeah, Disaster is very much behind us now.
I think we were gonna read a plot summary before we'd recorded this, and we just totally forgot.
Yeah, we did, but that's okay because tell you what,
I remember the entire plot.
Yeah. Do you want to go through the highlights, Ash? Just to give us a general summary.
This is going to be another Geist situation in which we kind of give a bit more of a, the compilation of what we enjoyed rather than a full run through like we did with Clock Tower 3. Because this game it's a really weird thing in which it's both incredibly memorable and also I remember nothing about it. Like I don't know how I can describe that feeling succinctly, but it just doesn't. It sticks in my brain, but I can't. It's like it's blurry.
Well, you had to mention things to me that made me realize, oh right, that whole part did happen. I think we're gonna end up talking about this game out of order because of just the way that the highlights stuck with us. You know, for instance, I reminded you of the fucking bear boss fight.
There's a section in the game in which you're climbing up this mountain to confront Surge in their big evil hideout, and you go over there and Surge go, Raymond, who the fuck even are you? What are you doing here? Raymond's like, I don't fucking know. And you have a fight with Colonel Evans, and he's a dingus, and he snipes you from across this dumb facility, and then you end up in this like log cabin in the middle of the mountain, and like there's just this girl inside there. She's called Iris. Yeah. And she's just like this really sweet young girl whose mother is ill and she lives on this mountain. And Raymond's like, what the fuck are you doing here? There's a disaster going on. This is terrible. And she's like, oh, my parents are gone. I'm just waiting for them to come back. And so you have to escort Iris down this mountain where like a volcano is erupting.
Yeah, like there's ash everywhere.
Yeah, well.
Oh, well. I mean, you were all over that game.
I know, I was all over that place. That section involves escorting this girl across like volcanic like wastelands, like having to find magic safety trees to hide under so you don't die of smoke inhalation, and then fighting a fucking bear in a 1-on-1 fight where the bear, like, it's like a light gun section where the bear is like crumbing at you from across the map and you have to shoot it down before it gets to you. And it's very silly.
The trees are very odd because they're, as you say, they're like the safety areas from the ash, but they're like glowing magic trees.
They're magic glowing video game trees. They have like a beautiful light radiating from them, and like the entire world is covered in this grey sooty ash, and then these green beautiful trees pierce the vision just like a beautiful mirage in the distance.
Yeah, great visual clarity for gameplay. dumb looking.
Very dumb looking.
Yeah.
It's like, little girl, why were you up here?
I think that might be the only section in the game, save for the last boss, where you're not fighting a man with a gun.
No. Which I wish they had more of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like the sections more. They were a bit more unique. It
Mm.
wasn't just fighting the same 10 guys over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
And you have to get in a car with Iris and drive down this mountain, and you're doing the most ridiculous road rash. Like, hold on, sweetie, I'm gonna get you out of here.
yes, you're going through on this fucking like 4-wheel drive car.
And you have to like harness the power of lava to solve puzzles, or you have to like use like lava to melt like ladders down and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was a weird puzzle section with a truck and like a big bit of lava coming down. I think it gets to a point where you have to inspect a bunch of items, and then you have to use a shovel to shovel lava onto into a
Onto like, because like a piece of the track is stuck basically. It's like melted into itself, so you have to like melt it back up and stomp on it, and then you can move the ladder around and stuff.
Oh, I think the stomp actually picked up on the
Oh,
microphone.
fantastic! You're welcome.
So yeah, that's there for dramatic
Famous
effect.
girl stomp.
The girl stomp.
Yeah, here we go. It's my new pop band.
That does sound about right, honestly. Like a girl's loud.
Spelled GRLL.
Yeah, like almost like a pink kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Like PX.
I am the modern pink. Everyone says that about me.
No, that's what we all say.
Yeah.
You're very punk rock. On the other side of things, however, you reminded me of the best character in the game. The greatest electoral member that has ever existed in a democratic society. The mayor.
The mayor. Never named. He's just the mayor.
The mayor, 61-year-old man who, during the avalanches and fires of the Blue Ridge City, he's there on the front lines, like Raymond Bryce saves him from the disaster and like from the day of crisis, and is like, Mayor, like, you've got to get out of here and be safe. And the mayor's like, no, I've got to go save my people. And when the fire tornado comes in, the mayor is working with Raymond Bryce to like break down fucking big gates and things.
You're kind of in this public park, and you have to go around the park recruiting followers to your cause so you can move this big truck out of the way.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like going around like being like, we gotta work together, we gotta come together as a community with the mayor to save ourselves.
They rally around the mayor, and then I think the mayor is implied to die, where they're like, no, the mayor, because as it fucking like swarms. The fire tornado, like, waves in, comes in and just smashes the shit out of everything. And you're like, no, mayor, as he's, like, gone. But he lives. He's fine.
He's fine, yeah.
The mayor comes back.
Not very many people actually die in this game.
No.
It's like Steve and the climate scientist who tries to escape and immediately gets shot. And like, so he like they're in this rain slick church.
Yeah.
And there's this really dumb cutscene where the scientist basically sacrifices himself to give Lisa a chance to escape, and she gets a meter down the road and is immediately recall, rendering his sacrifice entirely meaningless.
Yeah, basically. It's also, I think the escape is like they're just sitting in the side room of a church, which is their cell. And then the climate scientist opens one hatch and just goes, yeah, Lisa, crawl through there. Like you're...
Don't worry, just now is the time.
Yeah. And then when she does that, the spiky-haired Virgil man comes in and, like, confronts the scientist man and just fucking kills him.
Yeah.
And then Lisa watches this all happen, runs off a bit, gets caught by a different guy. And it's just, yeah.
It's like the game is just like, we're done with this character now, so he can just die pointlessly.
Yeah, we don't need him to predict every disaster that will happen.
Well, because like his entire point is that he's an earthquake scientist. He's a seismologist. I don't know what that word is. But once the game stops being about earthquakes, he is no longer relevant. So he just gets killed off in a random scene, and it's like, well, I guess he's gone.
Sure, why not?
And like Raymond finds his corpse, and he's like, no, I couldn't rescue him. There's no one who needs rescuing around here.
Oh. Raymond fucking cocking the gun as he approaches the room full of Surge. No one needs rescuing around here.
Because I'm going to kill them all.
That's the thing. I think Raymond Bryce ends more lives than he saves.
Oh, 100%. You kill hundreds of guys. You rescue maybe 50 dudes.
Exactly. I think there's maybe 30 in the whole game.
I think it's like 60, I think.
60?
When I was looking at we missed a lot. Like,
oh my god.
Lots of exploring you can do in those levels that we weren't doing.
Jesus.
Although we did find a lovely t-shirt.
Oh, we did,
yeah,
right?
While we were exploring the tsunami city, we just found a random t-shirt in a bathroom.
Yeah, we did.
And it was like, you got the earthquake t-shirt.
Yeah, so you could make Raymond Bryce wear a green shirt.
A really gaudy green shirt that's not got a nice pattern on it at all.
It's like one of those options you'd find in The Sims that you would never put on anyone.
Yeah.
Like that caliber of clothing. The unlockables in this game really are just completely whatever. Like,
yeah, they really like blue ball you as well, where when you get to the end of the game, you unlock a space key. And I remember you and I were thinking, is that going to be a post-game chapter where Raymond Bryce is having to survive on a meteorite or something, or like an asteroid? Like he's like jumping through space. He's got like moon physics. It's going to be incredible. No, it's just a shooting mini game.
Yeah, you have
where you just shoot at an asteroid.
You shoot at a meteorite that's coming towards the Earth for 3 minutes.
It's like, oh, cool.
Okay, great. Thanks, game.
I love DPS checks. Everyone's favorite.
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. But it's, I think, like, it's just such a mixed bag of things in this game. I mean, I remember for a long time us being in this fucking, like, subway for a while, which is where you rescue that dog.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a dog is one of the survivors there. One of the first ones you find, then it gets full of, like, ash, like soot and everything that fills your lungs. You shoot 1,000,000 men. There's fire everywhere, and there's loads of points where you find this fire extinguisher or like big hose with a backpack you've got on. And Raymond Bryce is like, this is the thing that's good for putting out fires, and you just ignore it for most of the level until you get to the very, very, very end, where he's like...
I think it's like you come back to the subway from a different level, and then that's when you can use the fire extinguisher.
Yeah. Where it's like, why the fuck? Because there's still fire everywhere. It's like, why the fuck can't I just...
Raymond's just got the foresight to say to himself, I'll need this later.
Yeah.
I'm going to savor this.
During this day of crisis, I won't use the resources in front of me before they perish under rubble. And
I know the day of crisis will be ongoing, so I've got to make sure I've got supplies for the whole day. You know?
Raymond Bryce, he knows he's in a video game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like
God,
from the way he acts.
What a fucking character. I mean,
I can't express enough how he's not actually interesting at all. Like, he is so plain. He's just like, I love to rescue things. That's my one thing I do.
And yeah, I feel as though he's not, overall in terms of the list, he's not the most boring character that we've, like...
No, because his boringness makes him interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it swings back around to making him just funny because he's so stern and so dedicated to this one thing that it becomes like, how do you, like... I can't imagine anyone talking to this man.
Yeah, he's not John Raymond.
No.
From Geist, and we played a few other quite mediocre games that have very kind of like milquetoast main characters, and he's still more interesting than them because there's kind of a weird sort of, I don't know.
He's got spiky hair.
Yeah.
And he runs like Crash Bandicoot when he eats big burgers.
Yeah, he does. He's the kind of man I want to be.
Yeah, he's the exact kind of man that would be the protagonist of Disaster Day of Crisis. And that's all you can say about it, really.
Yeah. Disaster Day of Crisis feels like one of those games that should have a tribute on YouTube that has Animal I Have Become playing over it, or Linkin Park's What I've Done, or something.
I think the thing that I said is that Disaster Day of Crisis feels like a rip-off of a better game that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like a weird knockoff of a game that came out on the 360 that didn't actually come out. You know, it's got that vibe about it.
The version of I Am Alive that never existed. Maybe that's the best comparison point with this game.
Don't bring up I Am Alive, that bums me out.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for I Am Alive.
Yeah, no, I was as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it might be a bit early to talk about this, but do we want to talk about our school projects?
Alright, sure.
Alright.
We can finally reveal that we're creatively bankrupt. And the reason why we're critics, not creators.
Yeah, right. So, Ash and I were both in the same media studies class back when we were about sort of 14 going on 15. And we had an assignment to design not really design a concept for a game. We had to make a cover art for a game that
it was like we were doing the marketing for it. Like we were like the PR people in charge of this game.
Yeah, we just had to have a general idea of a game and make box art for it as part of our class. And because the trailer for I Am Alive had come out at that point in time, I was really interested in the idea of making a game that was not about, combat and about killing or fighting. And I thought, like, a game about rescuing people in a disaster zone seemed cool. So I looked into things like Disaster Report, and I was excited for I Am Alive, which was eventually a very kind of different game to what was being marketed, I think. Like,
I finished I Am Alive.
Yeah, you did.
It's not good, but
no,
it's got ideas.
And I remember as part of the, despite me saying, like, I'd never played this game and I got this mixed up, the main source of inspiration I had to keep citing for the game I was making, which was called Acrophobia or something, was Disaster Day of Crisis for some reason.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like Disaster Report. Like, even back then I was getting mixed up. And it just feels weird because it's like Disaster was with me this whole time.
Yeah, Disaster's been the angel over your shoulder your entire life. It's always been there. You never quite noticed it until now.
No. I will say, however, Disaster Day of Crisis box art was significantly better than the one I made. I think I might have a scan of it somewhere, and if I can find it, I'll put it on this episode.
Fantastic.
It's
You'll never find my game though, Insomnia. Which was just Amnesia.
I mean, I remember the box art looked a lot like weirdly the Rule of Rose box art, I think.
Fantastic. There you go, see.
Like a mix
That's my angel.
A mix of that and like maybe the kind of promotional images you get for like Gone Home, or like I remember it actually being kind of artsy. You made it look pretty good.
Thank you so much.
Maybe
Thank you, flatter me, sir.
The fucking box that I made was fucking incredibly cringeworthy. I did not know. Like, it looks a bit like one of those like weird vanity novels people would make on Amazon, like Empress Teresa or something like that. It was that caliber of like bad. The difference was that at least at the time I could say I was 14 and not very good at drawing. Fucking disaster, man. Like,
yeah, so it's like here's kind of like the sequence of events, I suppose. So it's like it's the volcano level in which Steve dies, just kind of like a prologue. Then it's Blue Ridge City. There's an earthquake, a fire tornado, and a tsunami. And then you go to the mountains where you have the volcano erupting. And then you go to I think it's more of a northeast specific kind of area where there's a massive flood going on, basically.
Yeah.
And that level's kind of cool because you're walking through these city streets and it's like completely flooded. And you're trying to like wade your way through water and like people are being washed away in the currents and stuff like that. I was very fond of that. And that's like when you get to the church and like you have to like Lisa's being kept on the first floor of this church, or second floor if you're American, sorry. And you have to like go back down into the flooded section to find the key and then go back up before she floods. And it's a really cool, like, that's probably my favorite part of the game is that flooded area.
Yeah, I mean, I just was thinking beforehand about the level where there was like the hurricane, like winds were coming through, and there was this very awkward area where you had to hide behind cover or you'd get blown back to the start of the level.
Well, that was very much on the point where we were sick of Disaster Day of Crisis, where we were just like, we just want this game to be over.
Yeah, we really fucking did. At that point, we started burning for our supplies, which probably set us up for failure, like closer to the end of the game. But, man, do we want to talk about the president and how he looks like the most evil man alive? And yeah,
so the game sets up that the president is kind of obviously keeping an eye on the proceedings of the disaster because it's not good for his approval ratings, blah, 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 blah. And we just presumed that naturally he would be a huge plot element. Like maybe Raymond would figure out that the government actually planned this earthquake. They set off all these disasters in order to get a surge.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a slight plot thread of Surge is like made up of disgraced military officers who felt they were betrayed by the government, basically, and that's why they're doing all this.
Yeah.
He's not, he doesn't do anything.
No, he's not relevant at all.
It just cuts to him and he's like, this is going to hit me really bad in Nevada next year.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess it's just here to add gravitas to be like, this is like a big issue.
I think Surge make the demands that they want a certain amount of money or they're going to set off the nuke, and that's really the main plot point the president's there for, is to be receiving that message.
Yeah,
but...
it's to make it like a national, like, big issue where the president's getting involved.
Yeah. Which I think that's quite funny because they then becomes infighting in Surge where time runs out, and the crazy guy in Surge, the Virgil Devil May Cry guy, is like, well, the time's run out. We need to set off the nuke now, otherwise, they'll think we're bluffing. And the major goes, the colonel, goes, no, like, I'm not gonna fucking nuke a bunch of people, actually.
Well, the Virgil guy has the sense of, like, he's only doing this to sate some kind of intense bloodlust that he's got, where he's like, I don't care about our demands or about our honor, I just want to set off this nuke because I'm crazy.
Yeah. And the colonel is like, well, no, this was a bluff. Like, I'm not actually going to kill all these people, which leads to infighting in Surge, where crazy guy Virgil does just straight up get killed by Colonel what's-his-face?
Evans.
Colonel Evans, my mistake.
Well, you have a really dumb boss fight with him where he's like platforming and doing parkour over all these trucks.
Yeah.
You're trying to like shoot him down as he runs around you.
Oh my days, we need to talk about those boss fights.
Oh yeah, you want to tangent into the boss fights for a second?
Yeah, because the Virgil one's a pretty good one to talk about, where that's just so long, where like I think about Krauser. He's that game's Krauser.
He's that game's Krauser, yeah. From Mario 4, but that's keeping track.
From Resident Evil 4. I think the silliest one is still probably Gregory, the helicopter pilot.
Yeah, because like Gregory is a helicopter pilot, as previously established. But like a lot of his fights are him chasing you down in the helicopter, and then eventually you ground the helicopter, and then he's forced to fight you in person.
Yeah.
And he's not really a great ground fighter, so his strategy is that he's holding this bomb, and he's like, hey, if you shoot me, I'll blow up this bomb. And Raymond's like, what's your end game? And he's like, I don't want to get shot.
So what you have to do instead is you have to indirectly attack him by like shooting rubble and things like that.
But it's like the same little mini game where you shoot a sign above his head and it falls on him, and he never cottons on to this is what you're doing. So you do it like 4 times.
Yeah.
Like, how did I see it? I couldn't see it coming.
Yeah, I feel like if you did it once, it'd be an interesting kind of puzzle solving thing. But it's the fact that it's like a Mario boss style, like
Yeah, you gotta hit him 3 times.
Yeah, where it's like he's like, all right, fool me once. But it's a whole...
And it's also like, you've done it 3 times, and then if you just happen to shoot him once by accident, he'll go, all right, that's it, Buster, I'm setting off this damn bomb.
By complete fucking accident. Like, I kept accidentally setting it off because I would just narrowly miss the where you're meant to be shooting him, where the rubble is and things. But, yeah, my god. That fucking flooded bit as well, the section where people are getting washed up and you have to, like, drop platforms down in order to continue along the level.
Yeah.
That area is, like, really goofy to me. Because you just see people... Like, there's that one guy who's hanging from the sign as they're being rushed away, and it's like, Raymond Bryce is like, listen, I know you're probably getting weaker and weaker and you're gonna die, but just give me 50 minutes.
I'll be back for you.
When I lower this, like, Pepsi sign down to, like, float down...
I'm gonna swing back around. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Because he's at, like, a fork in the road. It
gets very, very silly. And then the other boss fights, I'm trying to remember what a lot of them are, 'cause I don't want to talk about the final one just yet. But there's like the bit when you're being sniped by Colonel Evans in that kind of warehouse.
Yeah.
And it switches. It's like one of the only boss fights that switches between the light gun and the rescue section. You're having to run through this warehouse, avoiding being sniped by hiding behind cover before then reaching a new vantage point to shoot him from.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting idea, but it's just kind of dull. Like, it's not got much pizzazz to it.
No, it doesn't really. I kind of appreciate the effort, though. Because with this whole thing of there being mercenaries and hijacking a nuke and all of this kind of stuff going on, I do get the feeling it really wants to be Metal Gear Solid. Like,
100%.
Yeah.
It's like crack team of crazy guys, and it's big nuclear plot, the president is there. Like,
Yeah.
It's so desperately trying to have that energy about it.
Yeah, that's how I feel, especially with that Major Evans fight, with the sniper and everything. But, like, in general, like, the what it's going for with the theming.
Including a crazy plot twist, which is that you reach the church and you defeat Virgil.
Yeah.
You bury the light, and then you're with the Colonel and Major Evans. And Major Evans, or Colonel Evans, whatever his name is, has kind of been very forgettable. Like, he's like this, like, guy with a clean-shaven face and, like, the dullest brown hair.
Yeah.
He's not a very interesting man.
Yeah. He looks like he would be, like, someone who'd come to your house and ask you if you want to join the Latter-day Saints.
He looks like he would be a minor character in Starship Troopers.
Oh, actually, that's a good one. To be fair, I think the main evil guy is the same as well.
Yeah. So anyway, so you get to this rainy church, and you're negotiating with the general, who's kind of like the leader of Surge, and you're kind of talking him down. You're like, listen, man, this isn't worth it. You've made a point. Let's just end it here and get down to it. And he's like, all right, fine, here. And then fucking Colonel Evans just shoots him in the back of the head and is like, this is my Joker's trick. I am the Joker. I am a crazy man.
Yeah.
I want to blow up people because it will be very funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, Colonel Evans, I wasn't expecting it from you. Like, honestly.
Like, damn, all right,
Yeah.
sure. He clearly sensed that all the other crazy people in Surge had already been killed and was like, well...
The energy passes on to me.
Yeah, time to take the mask off.
Yeah, this then culminates in the rest of the game in which he is the main antagonist. And, like, every shooting section has him in it, and he's like, this was always meant to be, Raymond, you and I, together at last. And it's like, who are you? Like, you don't actually have any context of who any of these characters are, and they're all just saying all these dramatic things, and it's like, you're just the brown hair guy who sniped me. Like,
He's just a boring-ass man.
and now he's, like, the most ridiculous, eloquent, crazy villain man of all time, to the point where he's just, like, giving big speeches about the boredom of life and about how he's going to make a big spark. And it's like, Jesus Christ, Evans, I was not expecting this from you. Like, stop going so hard.
Yeah, it's incredible. You have to then pursue him onto the ship in order to try and stop him from setting off the nuke and causing
Brought back a lot of good memories for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of the hit movie Titanic.
Being on that fucking boat. I mean,
Yeah.
it sinks.
My heart will go on.
Your heart certainly does go on.
Yeah. So what happens at the end of the bow section, Connor?
Well, so you decide to have your final confrontation with Major Evans, which I believe you have some kind of hand-to-hand fight with him in.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
But before that happens, you end up encountering Major Evans, and he's like, "You better get fucking ready. I have the most secret super weapon ever made in order to face specifically you, Raymond Bryce." And he gets into a goddamn mecha.
Yeah, it's a gigantic omnidirectional bipedal robot.
Yeah.
It's a fucking machine.
Yeah.
It's a powerful frame. It's a Gundam. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it has a great big crushing arm. It has
Yeah.
missiles. It has like a Gatling gun. It's
Of course, Raymond Bryce then proceeds to defeat it by rolling around and shooting it occasionally, and that's enough to win.
He does this dumbass Crash Bandicoot shitting himself while running from a boulder run as he's trying to like leap out of the way of fucking missiles and shit.
Or it's like you're fighting him on the deck of the ship, and there's like 3 areas which you fight it from. And Raymond would just roll from area to area, and Major Evans would be like, "Come on, just stay still."
Yeah, because Major Evans just stands still in this
Yeah.
mech.
And like the mech hasn't really got any like, it's got like a big Gatling gun and a big crushing arm, but it could just never hit Raymond, and it's just, like, this must be really embarrassing for him.
It really was.
Yeah.
And eventually you do blow him the fuck up. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a great finale to the fight. But he lives. The motherfucker lives, and you end up having the Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots like fist fight with him.
And it's like, but it's between Raymond Bryce and Colonel Evans. It's just like,
It's
all right, I
just-
mean, it's cool, but...
Yeah, fucking hell. Really, it's spectacular. I think that was like a bit like a game like, say, Resident Evil 5. I think that was picking up the game for me near the end, which is how silly the kind of final boss was.
It's just, there was such a disparity between how boring and Spartan Colonel Evans' design was in comparison to his ridiculously flamboyant personality that just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, he's not like that the entire game, and then he just flicks and he's like, I am the crazy man now.
Yeah. I feel like someone else would have just said, "Oh, Virgil doesn't die during that bit earlier. He's the crazy guy and you have the final fight with him." But like, no. They decide they need to have a twist, and that twist is that Virgil gets just fucking killed by General What's-His-Face, who looks like the gun commander's fucking older brother, who's more well put together.
Yeah.
And then and then he just to have Major Evans kill him.
No, because Major Evans shoots him and you think he's dead, but then he actually shows up at the end.
Oh, what, the General?
Yeah, and he's like,
Oh,
I
shit, you're right.
survived, and I'm going to help you take down General Evans.
Yeah.
But then at the end, Raymond and Lisa are getting off the ship, and they're like, "Come on, Colonel, we gotta go." And he's like, "No. My blood is my soul is too stained with blood. I'm gonna go down with the ship.
Yeah.
I'm gonna redeem myself." And they're like, "No, you gotta come." And he's like, "No, I really don't want to go to jail." So.
I don't want to be tried for the war crimes I've committed.
So this is actually preferable to me. And they're like, "Fair enough."
All right, well,
All right, then. See you later.
sure.
Yeah.
As they end up eventually.
Well, because that's not even the last part of the game. Like, the fight with the mech isn't the ending of Disaster Day of Crisis.
No, you have to go through the sinking ship while trying to dismantle or disarm the nuclear bomb.
It's like in the back of a van as well.
Yeah, you have to search through 3 vans.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that it's always in the final van you check, because there's no rhyme or reason as to why it's in any of them. It just you just search it, and and Raymond Bryce has a different line for each one you open. Very good at holding his breath, Mike.
Yeah, he is. Oh, we've got to talk about the bit when Iris gets washed away.
Oh, and you have to swim underwater after.
And it's like you have to like point the Wii remote cursor at her, and that will make Raymond follow her. And it's so annoying. It's so tedious, and it's so squirrely, and she's flying all around like this. She must be like long dead by then. But...
Yeah, but sure enough, she survives miraculously because she's a tiny girl in a video game, and you can't kill them unless you're the Dead Island trailer, I guess. But at any rate, what a fucking game.
Yeah, it's a little sad because the game is so, what's the word? It's so just like bam, 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 that we can't even remember in what order the bams came.
No, I guess what I will say, I want to briefly mention about the levels and things, is that, as I said, there's like 23 chapters, as it were, of various lengths. Like, one chapter could take forever. It could be a mix of every single type of, like, gameplay structure that they have. Another one could be, congratulations, you drove a car for 2 minutes and nothing happened.
Stage over,
like straight up, no obstacles or anything. Stage is just done. I think it gives a little bit of exposition in the background, and that's it.
Yeah.
I think it's not the kind of game that has any kind of, like, real artistic merit in its storytelling or anything to really make these moments feel like they work. But bada bing, bada boom. That's just how the fucking cookie crumbles in this fucking game.
And I mean, that's the main point I want to get across about Disaster Day of Crisis, because I feel like in the describing of it, we probably made this game sound quite appealing. but it doesn't really capture how most of the game is really dull shooting sections and walking around big grey empty maps doing very little of substance.
I mean, I guess if you love light gun shooters and you're not too bothered about the quality of them, you'll probably get a lot of fun out of this.
Yeah.
And yeah, at the same time, I wonder if we'll be on opposite ends of the spectrum, because I still feel as though I would recommend Disaster. So, Disaster, Day of Crisis, and what a day it was. Did it actually take place over the course of one day?
I believe that is the implication, yes.
Fuck, that's a long day.
It's a long day. I mean, the tagline for Disaster Day of Crisis is Raymond Bryce is about to have one hell of a day.
Yeah, I think he says that in the intro as well.
Yeah.
Which is a bunch of like high-end FMVs as well.
Which make the game seem way cooler than it actually is.
Yeah, as the fucking music is blaring, it's going brum, brum,
It's like the one song in the game as well. It plays that all the time.
Yeah, it really is. Fucking God.
Yeah,
It's
so
that. Yeah.
Disaster. It's kind of a weird game. I don't necessarily know how I feel about it. It's such an ambitious and yet conservative game where it's trying to meld all these styles together. It's trying to be high octane and energetic and fun and vibrant, but it doesn't ever quite get there. And my brain flits between this game is really fun and cool and this game is so drab and boring, and I can never quite decide how I actually feel about it.
I think the thing is that when I'm removed from the situation, I feel as though I'd say I really like Disaster Day of Crisis. Not as anything that's particularly like good or outstanding, but as something that's different and kind of interesting. I'm glad that I've played it.
Yeah.
Like, it very much speaks to the side of gaming that I enjoy, which is the one where ideas just get thrown at the wall and they see what the hell sticks.
I know,
And,
yeah.
like,
It's a video game ass video
Yeah.
game.
I think while playing it, though, it's a very different story just from the sheer amount of shooting sections and the times where it's a little bit too, like, cumbersome for its own good.
Yeah, and I feel like it never quite actually lives up to the promise of a natural disaster simulator, because apart from a few occasional sections in which you're dealing with the consequences of natural disasters, it's mostly just it's a bit windy or it's a bit rainy. You know, It never quite hits that octane or that tempo of things are really falling apart. It just seems a bit measured and a bit restrained in a way.
Yeah. I guess it's a little bit hard in a lot of ways to try and tell when and like how to really use natural disasters as like a gameplay thing.
Yeah.
Because they're very exciting set dressing for an action scene.
Yeah.
But like other than that, I guess I'd also argue this point, right? Because there's films like Volcano, The Day After Tomorrow, and things like that, which are films about natural disasters, but they're not. You know, they've not stuck around like something like The Fast and the Furious or James Bond or any other kind of...
Yeah, they kind of had their day in the sun.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like something that has a very limited mileage, and you really need someone very creative to reinvent the wheel, which games haven't even had their... What's he called? Roland Emmerich, I think, is the director of those films.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
They don't have their Roland Emmerich to do this kind of thing.
I guess I just think about how Monolith would go on to make Xenoblade, which is one of the greatest purveyors of amazing set pieces and incredibly imaginative visuals in terms of world design. And I kind of wish they had brought more of that creative spark to bear with Disaster, because I think with a bit more gusto, this game could have been really exciting.
Yeah, this game might have needed a few more liberties in that direction, because I think that despite the fucking mech at the end, being very grounded is probably one of the biggest kind of weaknesses of the game.
Like the closest they get other than the mech is the fire tornado. And I wish they had more stuff like that where it was natural disasters combining in some dumb way.
Yeah.
Perhaps like an earthquake is rending the land in front of Raymond while an ocean is pushing him forward, you know, something like that.
That's the thing, is that you use creative and interesting and unusual natural disasters, maybe like typhoons and like lightning storms and these kinds of things.
Yeah, like a whirlpool would have been cool.
Yeah, no, that would have been fucking great.
Yeah.
I
like. There are more thunderstorms in this game as well. Actually, now I think about it. I wish
true.
thunder was more of an element.
I mean, fucking Final Fantasy X can have a whole minigame about avoiding lightning. Why the fuck couldn't a Disaster Day of Crisis, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's almost like Monolith Soft, a team that's... Did Monolith Soft make the other Xeno games? Did they make Xenogears?
They didn't make Xenogears, but the people who would form Monolith Soft made Xenogear.
Yeah.
And then they made Xenosaga as Monolith Soft.
So it's almost like they had designed this game and been given this sort of style sheet of limitations and had to work in its confines when that's not their strength. It's like if you took, say, like the team that would create like a very unusual and creative game like Katamari, and then go like, yeah, we want you to go and make like Gears of War 2. And it's like, why the fuck would you do that?
Or if you got the people who made Amnesia frictional games to make a platformer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Did they do that?
No, they did not.
Okay, for some reason I thought for a second they'd made Bastion.
No, they didn't make Bastion.
Look, I don't keep track of what every like game developer
Such a
did.
weird pull.
Who did make Bastion?
Supergiant.
Supergiant. Okay.
Yeah, who then went on to make Pyre and Transistor and Hades.
Hades. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know. I don't
No,
know why.
frictional games have exclusively made the exact same horror game for the last 15 years.
Okay,
That's
right.
all they've ever made.
That's true. Unfortunately, we did not get to cover much of Amnesia on the list as much as we hoped we could. We tried to at one
Maybe
point.
we'll come back one day.
Maybe.
Yeah. We'll play Penumbra.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a pull.
give it a go.
Yeah, no.
No.
Penumbra is that weird game that has combat.
Oh,
But it's like point and click combat where you've got like drag a pickaxe across the screen to try and attack.
or it's creative, I suppose. That's one thing
yeah,
I'll give
yeah.
it to it. Yeah, it's the Disaster Day of Crisis is a very unusual one. I
wouldn't move to Europe for it.
no, not one of the.
I wouldn't even import a European Wii for it. I might emulate it if I was American. Maybe I'd give it a go.
Yeah, maybe give it a shot.
But
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. I'll tell you what. I'll ask this before we reach like our fullest conclusions. Was Reggie right? What? Because Reggie is supposedly the reason why this game was completely like unpublished in North America. Did it deserve to see the light of day across the Atlantic?
I think so. I think every game deserves to have a chance. And I think considering the state of the Wii's lineup in 2008, and especially when you think about the ongoing saga that emerged with Xenoblade, Last Story, and Pandora's Tower, where they just refused to localize those games. Like, Nintendo at the time didn't have very many of these games. They should have been putting out as much as they could have. And I think this game is fun. I think it's interesting. I think it has a right to exist. I think it has a right to be seen by anyone who would want to, you know? Like, it's not any worse than any of the crappy party games Nintendo puts out, you know? Like,
No, that's true, actually. Both official and unofficial.
exactly.
Like, you know...
It's not like the Wii's library was known for high-quality bangers all the time.
No.
Like,
No, it's. I think that's I think that's something I'd agree with.
yeah.
Because, yeah, no, I'd say, Reggie, you kind of missed out on this one.
Yeah.
That being said, it's very funny because I remember when we immediately... What the fuck did Reggie see so bad about this? This game's quirky. Like, maybe he just didn't like doing the weird motion controls for all these little actions.
Yeah.
And then you get to, like, your, like, third shooting section and you're like, all right,
Yeah.
maybe Mr. Fils-Aimé was onto something. But
But he was wrong about Pandora's Tower, I'm telling you. The girl eats that meat.
he was wrong about Geist.
He was so wrong about Geist.
Yeah,
This game is better than Geist.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. Do you want to pivot to rankings?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, I've not got much more to say about Disaster. It's a game that, because that's the thing about it. It kind of rests. I remember when we were doing the RE4 episode, we kind of talked about the different categories that we put these games into. So it's like quirky games, nostalgic games, bad games.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like this game kind of deserves to be in quirky, but it doesn't electrify me in the same way that Clock Tower or Tulip or Gregory Horror Show does. Like, it's in that category. It's at the table, but it's a lesser product. It's not as good as those things.
Yeah, it's one of the more reserved, quirky games,
yeah.
I would say. I think
An odd contrast.
yes, no, definitely. But that's okay. We don't have to fit everything into the groups, but I think like quirky is the one it would most belong at.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be the odd one out at the school tables anyway. Like, if it's gonna find someone to sit at for lunch, like unless it wants to sit with Ridge Racer, which we'll be talking about on the list soon.
It doesn't deserve to sit with Ridge Racer.
No, true. Ridge Racer's kind of
Ridge
the
Racer
golden
sits
boy.
alone outside smoking behind the sheds. Like,
Damn right.
Ridge Racer's not going to hang out with any of these squares.
That kid is too cool for school. But yeah,
He's the one for me.
There's no place I'd rather be. And speaking of places to be, where would you place this game on the quality?
I'm going to place it exactly legitimately in the middle.
Straight up in the middle?
It's the most mid game of all time.
That's interesting. Given how we've played some kind of real shit on the list that's coming up, I think I'd agree. Like, middle seems about right. Like, lower middle, maybe?
Lower middle. It's kind of like eating a very delicious, not delicious, but a very hearty bowl of porridge.
Okay.
That has some, like, fruits in it, like a little banana, and when you eat them, you're like, oh yeah, but it's mostly still porridge.
Yeah. It's like eating my porridge, because some porridge is good, like, especially with flavor.
Now we're going to get into your porridge cast. You talk about porridge.
Look, listen, that fucking porridge, it took me through a lot of hard days. No, but it wasn't very good.
I just buy nice cereal.
As for, interesting.
I'm going to put it right in the middle.
Right in the middle?
This is the most mid game of all time.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't interest me at all, but it's not boring.
I think on my own levels, I would say it's like lower end of high.
Yeah, okay.
Like I do think it's interesting because of what it tries to marry, the surrounding circumstances when it was coming out, who was making it, and that kind of thing. But I guess that might be a little disingenuous. It feels like
because the calculation I'm doing in my head is that this game is both the most interesting game of all time and the most boring game of all time.
So it balances
it out to middle.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because like there are things that are really interesting about this game. Why did Monolith Soft make this? What were they thinking? Who told them to do this? Why did Reggie hate it so much? Why is it so weird? But then actually, you look at it and it's incredibly grey and monotone and kind of boring. So it kind of just like melds out into a nice, calm, centrist, lib dem middle. That one's for me.
Yeah, it's the Eton of games.
No one's gonna get that.
No one will get that. No one will get that around here.
Come on down to Eton. The elderly are there. There's a lovely park.
A natural sequel to the Come On Down to Norwich bit.
Yeah, I'm specializing.
And as for fun, where would you put it?
This game made me really sleepy. Like, we were just playing it, and I was sitting there in my chair, just like, I could really go with a kip right now. So I'm gonna go pretty low on fun.
Right, fair.
I think the shootout took a lot out of us.
That's fair. I think because I enjoyed the observations of kind of the sillier moments here and there, and when it would occasionally mix things up, I think I enjoyed it. That I would put it in the middle.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think I'm warmer on Disaster than you are in a lot of places.
Well, that's the thing about Disaster, Connor, is that we've now concluded our thoughts, and we can continue on to much more fertile ground.
Oh, I see. Something that was a little bit more...
This is the thing that has made Disaster not stick in my memory with any sort of intensity, is that we played, following Disaster, the greatest game ever made of all time. Really the mecca of video games.
We played Spyro 3?
We already played Spyro 3 years ago, you know that for a fact. Don't you mess with me. Anyway, well, thank you so much for listening to the 6th episode of our premiere podcast, The List Goes On.
Yeah, if you're interested in hearing any more of Ash's work, feel free to check out her blog. I'll put the link.
I update it so frequently.
I'll put a link to it in the description, as well as in the top comments from myself in the bottom of the video.
If you could all go back and rewatch the Shadow episode so it's more popular than the Clock Tower ones, well, I appreciate that.
Okay.
I've been watching that race for a while now.
Oh, man. Okay, you've been following the numbers.
Yeah, I'm checking the metrics every day.
Yeah. As for my own work, if you're interested in seeing what I do, feel free to follow me on my main channel, ThunderPsyker, where I'll be putting out different videos as time goes on. And yeah, in the meantime, look forward...
Before you do that, though, I have another thing to plug, which is that our lovely artist, Sen, has recently put out a lovely Spider-Man fan animation. So if you want to go to that, there'll be a link for that in the description as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Check out Sen's work. We'll be putting that. His Instagram will be in the description as well. He is the artist for all of the art that we have for these episodes. So please feel free to check out his work because he is a wonderful man.
He's okay. Don't big him up too much.
All right, he's fine. We can't let him have an ego problem because he will. It's
already gone a bit too far.
It really has. Have you seen the crown thing?
He is a king. King amongst men.
He is. But like we live in a republic, so
we don't. We live in a kingdom. We live in the most famous kingdom.
Not if we move to the fucking, I don't know. What's the first republic that I can think of?
France.
Yeah, sure, we'll move to
the closest one is like right there.
Yeah.
Ireland.
Sure, we'll move to the Republic of Ireland.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, why not?
All right, well,
take care, everyone. Please enjoy your beautiful days and
good choices. Ciao.
Farewell.